It's time for more money with Matt Moore and Jay Money. So here's the question. Should the NBA have imposed a 65 game minimum for awards? We've talked about this previously. You probably already have an idea, Jay, of where I stand, but as a guest, I will let you talk about this first. What are your thoughts?
I think players need to play if they want to be in the conversation for awards. Like the whole thing is to try to keep these guys from resting and trying to rest. But let's take it back to the Michael Jordan days. Like these guys used to play all 82 games. So I feel like we respect players more that are playing the majority of the games. But I think the main reason is to try to keep these guys, giving them less incentive to rest if you want to be in the being like in the MVP conversation, things like that. So I do feel very strongly on that. I'll go out on a limb. I think it should be a 70 game minimum. How about that?
Wow. That's intense. Matt, what do you think?
I'm actually going to cede my floor time. I think this is a complicated issue, but I've talked to Maria and she's got some really good and passionate thoughts on it. So, Maria, I actually want to hear what you think about the 65 game minimum.
Okay. The 65 game minimum for awards is a rule that was imposed to help the league address its issues with load management. That was the intention. But the problem with it is the unintended consequence of players potentially getting penalized for not meeting a certain threshold, even if they have made a big enough impact to still be considered award worthy or award recognition worthy. And we've seen this happen a couple of times. LeBron James in 2012 played 62 games. Giannis in 2020 played 63 games. And we've also seen the opposite happen, where players for awards or being in the award conversation were voted not to be worthy enough or not to have made a big enough impact because they didn't play enough games. Joel Embiid is a perfect example when he was far and away the best rookie and did not win Rookie of the Year because voters did not feel that he made a big enough impact when he was on the floor. And it's not just the awards, it's the all NBA recognition, first team, second team, third team, defensive teams. Like, these are things that are tied to player contracts, with incentives, with money, with their livelihood. And if they have legitimate injuries and they are still far and away the best candidate for said award or said recognition, they should be able to have that.
I'm with you until you get to that last point. I'm with you until we act like it doesn't matter how many games you play. It is inherently more valuable for you to play 78, 80 games than 65. I'm with you on the idea of not holding these minimums and putting players in a position to feel like they need to try and game themselves into playing enough. I'm with you on the idea of trusting the voters to be able to make these assertions, because that's really honestly, when you get back to the Rookie of the Year, that was the deal. Embiid was clearly the best player amongst those rookies, but he didn't play nearly enough games. Like there does need to be standards for, and it's tough. Like, is it unfortunate that you miss out on an award because you didn't play enough? Yes. Does that mean that you deserve it? No. Like sometimes the thresholds have to be high when we're awarding the best in the NBA.
Jay, anything else to add?
I was just going to say that it's unfair to the people that are playing all the games, right? Or like only missing 2 games. Like look at SGA. I don't think he's maybe missed 1 game all season. It'd be really unfair to some of these other guys. Like, oh, okay, I'm actually out here playing. I'm earning my paycheck. Is something they don't really do these days. I just think it's unfair that they would get penalized for someone else getting injured. So I think being available is something that's really undervalued these days in the NBA.
I think when you say unfair, I feel like it's unfair for somebody to get penalized for getting injured. That's the point. Like, if you're resting and missing games, then
injuries are unfair, Maria. Like injuries are always going to be unfair.
Exactly. And so let the voters decide. That's how I feel. And, we've talked about, we'll move on from this in a second. We talked about Tyrese Halliburton before. He's only a couple games away from being ineligible for anything, potentially all NBA, when we all know the impact that he's had this season. It might be fine. It might be moot. He might play 65 and above. But if he plays 64 games, hypothetically, and he's not then cannot be in the conversation for most improved player or potentially a first, second, or third all NBA team after what he's done. That is unfair. That is unfair. So we have to move on at some point because, you know, I can't ramble on forever and you don't want to listen to me forever. But let's talk about what's going on elsewhere in the NBA. The Heat are back in action tonight. They're on a 7-game losing streak. Jay, actually, no, Matt, I'll start with you on this. How did they get out of this?
So it's a little concerning. I was initially, and I've tweeted this, like, not falling for it, Heat. You did this last year. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the Heat are in trouble. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs when they did this last year and then made the finals. However, the conversations coming out from local media outlets is a lot different. Like, there's legitimate questions being asked about, is it time to break up this core? Is it time for major changes? That's eye-opening to me, especially when it comes from outlets that have ties to the organization that have reported inside information before. There's luxury tax concerns. This team has been paying a high luxury tax bill over the last 15 years. Like, they have shelled out the money. And so there's always going to be a time when ownership is like, look, if we're not able to really seriously compete for a title without a miracle run like last year, it might be time to reassert some things. And then there's the Tyler Hero conundrum, which is just Tyler provides a lot of really good things, but their performance has not been as good since he returned as it was when he was absent. There's a lot of conversation about moving him to the bench and starting Duncan Robinson. This is really, really tough. All that said, I know that it's going to be an interesting game tonight. This is a must-win spot for them tonight versus the Kings.
All right. And Jay, how do you feel about the Heat getting out of this?
Well, I love must-win spots. I think that should be my middle name, must-win. Jay. But I think the Heat need to get back to playing hard-nosed basketball, like they made their name off of the past few years. So they have to get out of the. I think they get over it by playing the Sacramento Kings here tonight. I think they're getting a win tonight. The 7-game winning streak is ending tonight. I'm going to take the Heat in the first half on the money line, minus 115. This is an absolute desperation spot here, coming off seven straight losses. I think they come out here and build a lead early, and I don't think they look back. So obviously the Kings are on the fourth game of a road trip, of a 7-game road trip here. The Heat are they're 13-10 against the spread in the first half at the house. And you look at the Kings, they're the 8th worst team in the NBA at covering the first half on the road. So they've had a day off in Miami, as Matt would like to say, the Miami flu. There's a lot of things that are piling up here. I think this is a perfect get-right spot for the Miami Heat here tonight. So I'm going to take them in the first half, but I also believe that the 7-game win streak ends tonight.
Makes a lot of sense for how we're betting tonight. Looking forward to seeing what the Heat actually get done here before the trade deadline. Matt, what are you betting tonight?
I'm on NBA Bet Stream tonight. You can catch it in the NBA app. Just go to the streams tab under Pelicans Rockets. And so my pick's going to be from that game. I'm picking the Rockets +2. The Rockets are 16-8-1 against the spread at home. The Pels are just 4-5 as a road favorite this year. This is an uncomfortable spot for them a little bit. We've already seen this line move from Pels -2 to Pels -1 now. Consensus in the market in the app. I project the Rockets as about a 3.5-point favorite in this matchup. Why? Because Houston is 3 points above league average in home differential. Their home court advantage has been significant this season, which is why they have that 16-8-1 against the spread home record. A lot of this gets into also the Rockets play a really gritty brand of defense. This is going to be a tough battle. I do lean a little bit towards the over, mostly because of the type of shots that both of these teams both take and try and get the other team to take. But I think it's going to be a really great matchup. We'll have lots of bets for you, props, sides, totals, everything on NBA BetStream in the League Pass app.
We look forward to catching you on the NBA app for League Pass for the Bet Stream. Matt Moore and Jay Money, thanks so much for joining Green Dot Daily.